The case we chose was the U.S. versus Nixon case. The U.S. versus Nixon case was issued on July 24, 1974, after President Richard Nixon was named as a co-conspirator involved in the Watergate break-in. Archibald Cox, the special prosecutor appointed to investigate the Watergate affair, obtained a subpoena that required Nixon to display recordings of his meetings with various assistants. Nixon only released edited versions of these recordings, which led to the Supreme Court hearing. Around the time of the U.S. versus Nixon case, a series of worldwide events were in action. In 1974, the Vietnam War was still in progress, and the year prior, Nixon signed a treaty in order to withdraw their troops. However, some Americans were still left in South Vietnam during his trial. India also successfully launched a nuclear test, making them the most recent nuclear power of that time. The inflation rate significantly increased in 1974, causing the rate of price to rise to 11.3%. The constitutional question raised during this trial is whether or not the president has the right to keep certain information private under executive privilege, completely immune from judicial review. The members of court who handled this case were Warren Burger, who served from 1969 to 1986, who was appointed by Richard Nixon, a Republican; William Douglas, who served from 1939 to 1975, appointed by Franklin Roosevelt, who was a Democrat; William Brennan, who served from 1956 to 1990, who was appointed by Dwight Eisenhower, a Republican; Potter Stewart, who served from 1958 to 1981, appointed by Dwight Eisenhower as well; Brian White, who served from 1962 to 1993, who was appointed by JFK, a Democrat; Thurgood Marshall, who served from 1967 to 1991, appointed by Lyndon B. Johnson, who was a Democrat; Harry Blackmun, who served from 1970 to 1994, appointed by Nixon, a Republican; Lewis Powell, who served from 1971 to 1987, also appointed by Nixon; and William Rehnquist, who served from 1972 to 2005, appointed by Ronald Reagan, a Republican. The U.S. versus Nixon case came into the Supreme Court during the investigation of the Watergate break-in. Archibald Cox was a special prosecutor for the case and has obtained a subpoena that required President Nixon to release certain recordings of his meetings. Nixon only displayed edited tapes, and Archibald immediately brought the case to the Supreme Court, and his trial began.
What was the decision of the court? All the members of the court had decided that President Nixon should hand over the tapes that would incriminate him. This also included subpoena materials. Significance behind the decision. After the materials were turned in, many things happened. The playing of the tapes unveiled the truth behind President Nixon's presidency, and it unveiled many secrets that was hidden about it. The tapes proved that Nixon was involved in the Watergate scandal, which shocked many Americans. This led to many Americans losing faith in him and not trusting anything he said. To avoid being impeached, he wanted to salvage his reputation, and he decided to resign as president. This case also proved that there was a limit to the president's executive privilege and power. This case had a major impact on the way that we view our government.
Chief Justice Warren E. Burger wrote the opinion for a unanimous court, joined by Justices William O. Douglas, William J. Brennan, Potter Stewart, Byron White, Thurgood Marshall, Harry Blackmun, and Lewis F. Powell. Justices Warren E. Burger, Harry Blackmun, and Lewis F. Powell were all three appointed by President Richard Nixon during the time he was serving his first term. The majority opinion resulted in a unanimous decision against President Richard Nixon, which ordered him to present tape recordings and materials to an administrative division court. This was all issued on July 24, 1974. This decision was extremely important to the late stages of the Watergate scandal, once there was an ongoing impeachment method against Richard Nixon. U.S. versus Nixon is important precedent limiting the ability of any U.S. president to claim executive privilege. All the judges in this case agreed that Nixon should hand over the tape because he is not above anybody else. They spoke about how he did have executive privileges, but there are limits to this. He would still have to obey the subpoena and produce the tapes in the document because there is a fundamental demand and its fair administration of justice.
Although the court's decision was unanimous, there were some dissenting opinions. For example, the framers believed that the court was simply too small to make a decision as impactful as an impeachment. They believed that instead it should have been the representatives of the people making the decision for the impeachment. On July 24, 1974, a unanimous court ruled against the president, and since then, the case has not been overturned nor upheld.
Do you agree with the decision? I personally agree with the decision that the court made. My opinion is that he should have handed over the tapes in the beginning of the trial. Although he may be president, he is still a citizen of the United States just like the rest of us, and he should have handed over the tapes without question. If he truly was not guilty, then there would have been no problem in simply handing over the tapes instead of stalling. By using the card that he has executive power and is held to a higher standard than everybody else shows that he is hiding something and does not want something to come out. The tapes were able to show the people that the president they voted for and trusted in had failed them and lied to them in this major scandal. It is no wonder why the people were unable to trust him afterward. I believe that we as citizens should be able to fully trust our president. I also believe that he would have lost the upcoming election miserably, which would have caused a major blow to his reputation and affect his political status and public status.